Hey, welcome. Carm Capriato here. Remarkable Results Radio's episode 491. Hey, this episode is with Warren Parr, and he'll give you the strategy and tactics behind the adjustment of your labor rates as it relates to diagnostic and intensive labor rates. He's going to explain the why and how he did it.
People do not come in very often and say, wow, you're $182 an hour while the shop down the street is $100 an hour. In the rare instances I do that, I always ask them, how long is it going to take? Because the rate is only part of the formula.
Welcome, aftermarketers, to Remarkable Results Radio. Listen to learn just one thing from today's episode on your journey to remarkable results. Hello, friends. Carm Capriato here, the Automotive Aftermarket Podcast guy, and so honored that Remarkable Results Radio is partnering with Napa Auto Care and the 2020 Napa Expo. Join me and Napa, including suppliers, industry experts, and your peers in Las Vegas, April 6th through 9th, 2020. Now, that's the place you're going to discover at the Expo the latest news, trends, top equipment, and industry information. Contact your Napa store for all the details on how to enroll. As 2019 ends another decade, I want to believe that you've grown as a leader and business person and that the podcast learning library has helped you reach new heights. Now, 2020 can be one of your best years ever, as long as you deliberately plan on your success. Now, will you hit every mark that you plan on? Probably not. But without plans or goals, you remove your personal engagement and commitment. Now, if you struggle with this, then you may need to get an accountability partner to help you. Now, as you've heard me say before, fear makes you stupid. Now, don't get into that rut. Break away, and you owe it to yourself and your business. Hey, speaking of 2020, be on the lookout for some exciting plans that I'm brewing to make your investment with the podcast even better. Now, listen to Warren Parr from Complete Auto Care in Fresno, California. You may remember Warren Parr as he was on a while back talking to you about his very cool and unique PICO Scope Club, and that was in episode 485. You owe yourself a listen for that. Now, Warren's bringing a practical view of calculating your diagnostic labor rate. He is completely changing his earnings and profit structure by having a diag labor rate that is based on his real need to make the correct gross margin, because diag time rarely sells parts. Now, he also explains his intensive labor rate as it relates to big ticket items. Now, I did an episode with Vin Waterhouse on this very subject. It was episode 471. Very worthwhile to listen to. It is one thing to have a lesson from a coach, but another to hear from a shop owner who has put his teachings into practice. Find the talking points and links to Warren Parr's previous episodes at remarkableresults.biz/E491. Hey, now I think it's time to use the education from this episode and make 2020 your most profitable yet. Hey, Warren, welcome to Warren Parr from Complete Car Care in Fresno, California. Hello, Warren.
Hey, thanks for having us. How you all? Thank you, Carm.
Hey, no problem. This is your number 2 podcast with me, and I'm so happy to do here part 2. We are going to talk about diagnostic labor rates, and it's a big, huge topic today that, we're doing so much work that doesn't have the parts margin attached to, all the labor work, and that we need to have a different labor rate to cover that.
Let me just start with this. I was shop A before I started the diagnostic labor rate. I decided that in my business that I needed to be more productive, that I needed to increase our car count. I needed to increase our productivity. I wanted to pay my technicians more. We adopted the strategy of technology and training. Right now, we go to about 160 hours a year of training. We got more efficient at diagnosing and repairing, and we weren't making any more money. I felt that it was getting worse. And so it wasn't until I went to a Vin Waterhouse seminar that I started realizing what we were doing wrong. And I'm going to give you an example of two shops. We were shop A. We are now becoming shop B. Shop A both shops decided that they wanted to increase their revenue. So they decided that they would do it through productivity, and through that they would increase their training, increase their technology. And as a result of that, both shops were able to double or were able to increase their productivity by 50%. Let's just say, because that's easy math.
Mm-hmm.
Shop A, which is what I was, did not raise their rates. They charged the same rate. So because they were doing it twice as fast and charging half as much, they would have to double their car count to maintain the same revenue. Shop B, which is what I'm working on now, charged double. So therefore, Shop B, their estimates were the same, their repairs were the same. They did it in half the price, half the time, and double the price. So the end result was exactly the same, and they generated all their revenue in the first 6 months. So you need a diagnostic rate. When you have a normal repair, like brakes as an example, you're going to do front and rear brakes, you're charging 2 hours at your rate. But also you have another source of revenue, and that is parts. So with parts, that job pays a lot more than a diagnostic would pay at 2 hours because it doesn't have any parts. And so that's why I found out the more diagnostic I did, the less profit I made, and I couldn't figure out why. I was trying to build my reputation, and we were trying to fix everything that everybody else couldn't fix, and that just almost took me down.
And especially you're a heavy diag shop with all the training that you're going to. I mean, you're getting everybody's problem children, and they're coming in. There's not enough parts riding the rails, if you will, with every diag hour that you've got in, and you're missing that gross margin on the part.
That's exactly right. No parts. Only have one profit center instead of two. It's going to go bad.
Did Vinny teach you the math?
He did. We do a little even more than what Vin recommends, but what we do is we figure out our parts profit per year. Parts sales, parts cost minus parts sales is parts profit. So then we figure out exactly how many billable hours we have per year. With that, we have a parts profit for billable hour. In our case, that's $40. So our normal rate is $125. So we stack on the $40 onto that $125 for the parts we didn't sell. So now we're at $165. So the next thing that happens is now you have a technician that is doing the diagnostic. Of course, he's your most expensive technician. All right. So you pay him, let's say, $10 more. So now you add that $10 differential between technicians, and now you're up to $175. And then, of course, we add. When I do my income taxes, I look at all the tools that we bought during the year, and then we look at the diagnostic hours per year, and we figure out that cost, and then we add that, which is about $10 for all the equipment and everything. It's about $10 a diagnostic hour. For every hour we charge $10 more, we're able to pay for all the training and technology.
So you're currently at about 182 for that.
That's exactly where we are.
You were bleeding a slow, miserable death, huh?
And didn't know why. The harder I worked, the worse it got. I didn't know why.
So the guy down the street doesn't even know this.
Hopefully in our area they do, because we're having Vin in. We must have Vin in 4 or 5 times the last 5 or 6 years. So it's getting better. But that's part of we have formed a club, a Pico Club, where we work together with technology to increase productivity. And part of that Pico Club is also the labor rate. Because if we teach them all the technology, we teach them all the new technology, and they go faster and they don't adjust their labor rate, will actually harm them. So
that's a great arena to talk about that. And in the Pico Club, you're talking diag, and what an evolution to talk about a diag labor rate. I want to tell our listener that you and I did a podcast on your Pico Club, so please look that up. And on this show notes page, we'll have a link back to the Pico Club episode. One other thing about Vin is he did come on and do a podcast with us on intensive labor rates. And Vin offered up a formula that he has on his website, and he also gave up the password to get into it. And I just want to tell everybody that it's episode 471. You can go and just call that up on my website, remarkableresults.biz. Look for episode 471. And you can get the formula, the password on how to do exactly what you just said. You just put in your numbers, and it'll tell you what your diag, or what Vin calls the intensive labor rate.
And if you're struggling and you don't know why, and you don't have a diagnostic rate, do yourself a big favor. Check it out. Carm, I want to say one other thing too. This does not happen very often. People do not come in very often and say, wow, you're $182 an hour, while the shop down the street is $100 an hour. In the rare instances I do that, and they say, well, the shop down the street is a lot cheaper, they're $100 an hour, I always ask them, how long is it going to take? Because the rate is only part of the formula. And then I explain to them our technology and our training, and that we're probably in the end going to be able to do it more accurately and quickly, and it'll probably be cheaper in the long run. This is what customers always ask. How much is it? How much is a job? They don't care how we arrive at the estimate. They just want to know, how much is it? And then from there, the next two questions are, when will it be done? And will you stand behind it? Will you stand behind it? They're not going to ask you your diagnostic rate. It rarely happens. If you raise your diagnostic, if you add a diagnostic labor rate, they won't even notice it. People won't even notice it. If you don't add a diagnostic rate, you're going to really struggle, and you may not be there for your customer because you may fail.
Hey, it's Carm here to tell you about the best shop management solution for your auto care center, Trax Enterprise. Now, since Napa introduced Trax in 1989, it's been the industry's leading shop management system out there. Today, Trax Enterprise offers even more of the features auto care center owners want, things like a powerful interactive scheduling calendar, faster and streamlined workflow, multi-shop capabilities, easy pay consumer financing integration, and more. That means you can count on Trax Enterprise to help drive your success today and well into the future. The tabbed interface lets you open and view multiple estimates, ROs, invoices, and purchase orders, all at the same time. You can even place windows side by side, over or under, or drag a tab from another application outside Trax to open another window. One auto care center owner said he loves being able to have 10 to 12 work orders open at once. Enterprise also offers a Microsoft Outlook type calendar so you can view daily, weekly, and monthly schedules, drag and drop appointments between days and times, and block time to indicate length of work. Punch out to Mitchell Pro Demand is another huge benefit. It provides embedded labor, part, maintenance, and fluid capacities that can be transferred to estimates and repair orders within Trax. Trax Enterprise also streamlines parts ordering. Just one click and it's done. The mobile capture app sold another auto care owner on Trax Enterprise. He said there's no reason to write VINs by hand anymore. You can decode the VIN from a mobile device and send all the information directly to Trax. There are reporting features too. For example, with just a couple of clicks, you can find out how many repair orders you've written in a month. Talk to your Napa Auto Parts store and find out more about what Trax Enterprise can do for you, plus the hundreds of other great things the Auto Care program has to offer. Depending on the job, Warren, do you charge a minimum 1 or 2 hours at diag rates?
We don't even take on a diagnostic repair unless we have an estimate for 2 hours. So it's 362. Okay. And if we do get it done quicker, then we will reduce the charge. But before we ever even work on the car, listen, I don't want to do the job. I don't want to estimate for an hour and then not be able to solve the problem and give them a bill for $182 and not have it resolved. I want them to have skin in the game. I want to have a chance to fix it. So the first thing we do, of course, is we go to our network. We go to Identifix. We do our research, recalls, all those things, so that we're looking at the symptoms, so that we're narrowing our focus down right from the beginning. So we do all that research before we actually go to the car and start hooking up our technology. And that may take a half hour, sometimes longer. So we may only, in the first hour, we may only get to actually labor. We might actually work on it a half hour. So I need the next hour to really fly. You know what I mean? With all the capability and technology.
How many times are you going over the 2 hours? What's the percent?
We're getting pretty good. I don't know. I hadn't even thought of it. 10%?
So how many times have you said to the customer, listen, I gave you a bill for 2 hours of diag time, but we did it in less? How often does that happen?
20%. We try to be really thorough.
Mm-hmm.
After the repair, then there's also the retesting of it. You know what I'm saying? To verify. So we run the tests and all that stuff too. So
same thing if you were doing a big heavy engine job?
If we did a heavy engine job, we have a different rate for that. We're doing one right now. It's called intensive rate. An intensive rate is where you do a job, and the example that we always use is a rear main seal. You have 5 hours worth of labor and you sell a $20 rear main seal. So there, it's almost like diagnostic. You put in all that labor and you didn't make parts profit. So what we do when we do a big heavy job like an engine, we sell the customer the repair or the part, transmission, engine, whatever it is, at our cost. And then we use what we call an intensive rate. We already talked about this. So what we, as our regular hourly rate and the $40 an hour for parts that we didn't sell. So when we're doing that, our labor rate is $165 an hour, and the engine is, or whatever the major component is, we sell it at our cost. And that works really well.
And you sell it at your cost.
We make average amount on parts. Okay, so we make an average amount. Instead of losing money, we make an average amount, because what do you sell a $2,000 motor for? 24, 25? So we just use average. And our average part is $40 per hour for every billable hour. So that's what we do. And the motor is our same as our cost.
A little earlier, you said 160 hours of training. Is that per tech, or is that for everyone in the shop?
Every tech goes 160 hours.
Oh, wow.
I need to go with them so I understand and see what they're learning. Here's where it goes bad for a lot of shops. If the owner does not go to the training, nothing changes at the shop the next day. The equipment's not bought. Nothing changes. If the owner is not in the training, nothing changes at the shop. And so therefore the technicians will quit going to the training, because it's useless. They go and they learn, but they don't apply. So we all go together and we all apply the training. If not the next day, that week we acquire the equipment and we start right away. So we all attend together. We all work together. While we're working during the day, if somebody learns something, discovers something, we stop. Everybody goes over and looks at the waveform. Everybody sees what they're doing. So everybody in the shop sees the same thing at the same time. We're all learning together. We all go 160 hours.
Are you wrenching still?
A little. I'm doing more diagnosing, but only when we're really busy. I'm trying to work on building the business and then kind of helping them to learn, kind of guiding them. So I try not to get into that too much.
And by going to the training, it probably just wants to drag you in. Oh my God, how can I apply what I just learned? I can't imagine how hard it is for you to get out of the bay.
Oh, we have fun. Well, that's one of the things about the Pico Club. So we all get to play, and I get to teach there. to students and things like that. So, and I get to see when the guys discover something, I run right out there too and see what they found out. Gave them a big high five. Then we send the waveform to everybody in the club.
You brought up a great point about coming back and implementing what you learned and possibly having that new piece of equipment that helps. Imagine a tech would have to come back and sell the hell out of the owner. Hey, listen, this is what I learned in this new piece of equipment. Yeah. But having been the owner in on the front line of training with them, you can see the value in what the shop needs.
We're doing a little different there than most shops, I would imagine. My technicians are not allowed to buy any tools. Every tool in the shop I own, I purchase. Okay, that is one of the benefits, at least right now. They have no tool bill, no training bill. Every tool is bought. They tell me what they need, and we get it. And the reasons why, I'm going to give you an example. If an estimate for a job, the flat rate is 1 hour, and it took the technician 2 hours. Say they didn't have the right piece of equipment. They took 2 hours instead of 1 hour. Let's say they're making $25 an hour. Did I lose $25 an hour because it took them an hour longer? No. I lost $125 an hour that they would have been that I would have been charging if they would have been on another vehicle. I lost the $48 per hour billable hour that we would have gained if I would have been on another vehicle, plus the $20. So for every hour they go over their time, it costs potentially, roughly $180, $200 an hour. So technicians are, I was a young technician. I had a house payment. I had a car payment. I had a family. So they sometimes have to decide what they're going to do, if they can purchase the equipment or not. When they don't, when they don't, I'm the one that loses. They still get this. They still get a paycheck. The one that really takes the loss is me. So I try to make sure that they have everything that they need so that they can be as efficient as possible. I now believe, after going to Vin Waterhouse's classes, that my job as the owner is to make sure that their job is absolutely as easy as it can be.
Your training culture is so high with 160. Have you ever sat down with someone that you were ready to hire and said, by the way, here's our training requirement and commitment of 160 hours? Did they ever just look at you and say, I'm out of here?
So that's always one of the first things that we talk about. And I tell them about that. And I tell them, how much training we go through, that I will pay for it. And legally, I cannot force you to go. So it's really your choice. However, we're going to be using newer technology. The vehicles are going to be getting more advanced. And if you don't keep up, if you don't go to the training, you're going to have a hard time keeping up, because this is the direction where we're going.
Thank you, Warren Parr, Complete Car Care, Fresno, California, for coming on and sharing your unbelievable commitment to training and how it's benefited you, and how you've also learned how to come up with a recovery labor rate. We all learned an awful lot. Thanks for your passion.
I appreciate it. And you guys, again, if you are a good shop and you do not have these recovery rates, these labor recovery rates, really check out the podcast that Carm directed to you with Vin. I think it's going to help you a whole lot. And we really need to get the wages of our technicians up. We are competing against other industries. We need strong, young talent. And the way to do it, the way that we do it, is we balance it on the technology. We don't charge the customer anymore. We charge the exact same price. We just do it twice as fast. So it's a better product, and it allows us to pay more competitive with other industries. So don't be afraid. Take a look at it. It will work.
Thanks, Warren.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Carm.
Thanks for being on board to listen and learn from the premier automotive aftermarket podcast. Until next time.